There are great TV shows where everything is surface level and that's just fine. What you see is what you get. But truly iconic series will often dare to take things further and reveal just how much obsessive thought has gone into even the most apparently mundane of details. Whether you realise it for yourself or learn the truth from the fine folks over at r/TV Details, appreciating how much effort has been put into rewarding attentive viewers can make watching a TV show so much more satisfying. So with that in mind, here are TV secrets that were hiding in plain sight. The Drunk Got Sober, Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation was committed to long-term gags and historic callbacks more than any TV sitcom not called Arrested Development, and perhaps the most impressive of the whole lot had its origins in the show's pilot episode. The episode memorably features a sequence where Leslie Knope discovers a drunk man passed out in a slide at a park and uses a broom to try and shoo him away. Hilariously, this ends up having an epic yet subtle payoff 6 years later when, in Parks and Rec's series finale, the same man is briefly seen suited up and requesting that the city fix a broken swing, the implication being that the drunk got sober and turned his life around. Actor John Daly looks different enough in the two scenes that it's incredibly easy to miss, even if it's nevertheless a great piece of low-key continuity hiding right before your very eyes.
Maggie doesn't back down from Mr. Burns, The Simpsons. Without doubt one of the greatest whodunit tales in TV history, the mystery surrounding exactly who shot Mr. Burns at the beginning of The Simpsons' 7th season was actually secretly hinted at during the 6th season's finale, as the despicable Mr. Burns steals Springfield Elementary School's oil and threatens to block out the sun. This horrible figure eventually shows up at a town hall meeting talking about his actions, and arrogantly asks all in attendance who here has the guts to stop me. While everyone else watching on looks away after questioning whether they do have the guts to stand up to the villainous nuclear power plant owner though, Maggie Simpson shoots an angry stare through Burns' head. A whole episode before it would be revealed that this child pulled the trigger in response to Burns taking candy from a baby, this secret clue was sitting right there in Marge's arms. Now I've got a quick question for you. What is your favourite Simpsons joke of all time? You let me know in the comments section right down below.
Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad. Saul Goodman was one of Breaking Bad's most distinctive characters, and popular enough to star in the hit spin-off Better Call Saul. Yet despite being such a prominent fixture in the original series, he didn't actually make his debut until the 8th episode of the 2nd season. However, an incredibly sly nod towards his eventual presence was hidden in the 1st episode of that season, when Walter is briefly seen skimming through channels on the TV while his wife Skylar is trying to get his attention. If you listen incredibly closely, you can hear a snippet of the eventually iconic Better Call Saul's slogan, which Goodman features in his god-awful commercials. Unless you're watching with headphones, this one's incredibly tough to catch, especially as it isn't subtitled on any of the home or streaming releases of the episode. Sneaky.
Gustavo Fring rings the bell, Breaking Bad. Not long after successfully managing to talk his way out of potential trouble, during a meeting with the DEA in the Hermanos episode in Season 4 of Breaking Bad, drug kingpin Gustavo Fring finds himself in an elevator as he exits the building. Listen closely as the chicken man taps his fingers and worries about the DEA closing in on his operation, and you'll hear the dings of the elevator ringing out while the shot focuses on a Fring deep in thought. The tension is real, baby! But this moment also provided audiences with a secret clue as to how Fring's world would eventually fall apart. Quite literally. Just a few episodes later in Face Off, after paying one last potentially deadly visit to Hector Salamanca, Gus ends up having half of his face blown off and being killed. And how was that life-ending explosion caused? By Hector repeatedly ringing his bell and setting off the bomb tucked away under his wheelchair, of course. A moment secretly teased all the way back inside of that elevator.
Buster's hand, Arrested Development. One of the most memorable and hilarious moments in all of Arrested Development is the fatal outing where poor Buster loses his hand to a loose seal in the 2nd season's 11th episode. And as perhaps the ultimate proof of the show's incredible penchant for impossibly well thought out gags and clever foreshadowing, Buster's accident and him subsequently receiving a hook hand replacement is hinted at in least 6 episodes prior to it actually happening. These gags include him commenting that a party will be off the hook, mention of a seal attack, attack on the news, Buster looking at a hand-shaped chair and mentioning how much he misses it, Buster playing a claw machine and getting a seal toy, and in the very episode where the accident happens, Buster is seen sat on a bench with the words "arm off" spelled out next to him. And there's surely more, and though these hints are easily missed by even dedicated fans, they're sure to have you spitting your coffee all over the TV if you do manage to catch them on a rewatch.
Halbrand tells us looks can be deceiving, the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. From the very first moment Halbrand shows up in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, the folks behind this latest chunk of Middle-earth were secretly teasing the massive reveal of him actually being the evil Dark Lord Sauron. On top of the first shot of Halbrand in the series only showing off one eye of Sauron, you get it? One of his first lines after Galadriel is pulled to safety onto a raft containing Halbrand and a few other humans, sees the evil lord within stating looks can be deceiving. You can say that again. By the end of season 1, it's made known that this man of the Southlands was actually the figure who acted as one of Morgoth's servants, would ultimately forge the One Ring, and whose eye would watch over Middle-earth throughout the War of the Ring.
Wayne Williams' cameo, Mindhunter. Mindhunter's brilliant second season culminates with Holden and Bill pursuing a murderer who operated in Atlanta between 1979 and 1981, primarily preying on children. In the season finale, suspect Wayne Williams is arrested for the killings, though he was ultimately only ever convicted of murdering 2 adults, with the city's desperate rush for closure undermining any desire to investigate him for the 23 further killings. Williams is a focal part of season 2's final 2 episodes, though also makes a blink-and-you'll-miss-it appearance in episode 6, visible briefly as a photographer who follows the police while they investigate a tip-off. Among the media scrum, a shot lingers on Williams' face for maybe a second, and at the time, it seems completely harmless and ordinary. 2 episodes later, though, Williams is brought into the story in earnest.
Ilnam's number tells you who created the game, Squid Game. Much of the planet were well and truly glued to their TVs back in 2021, when a little show by the name of Squid Game landed on Netflix. And after Guy-hun somehow manages to survive and win the entire deadly series of children's games, one hell of a bombshell is dropped on both him and those watching on. The old man who Guy-hun had befriended at the beginning of the games, and was suffering from a brain tumor eventually after faking his own death, states to his pal on his deathbed how he was actually the one who created the titular contest in the first place. However, that secret was actually somewhat clear to see for anyone with a pair of eyes. You see, this old man had been given the player number of 001, but this wasn't a coincidence, because he created said games to keep rich folks entertained. He was obviously the first person entered when he decided to get involved in that year's competition, and even Ilnam's name secretly pointed to him being the person behind the concept all along, with it translating to First Man. Put simply, this old man being the creator, or first man to think of the concept, was sitting right under your nose for much of season 1.
Willow's gay, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When Willow finally came out near the end of Buffy's 4th season, fans were divided about whether or not it felt forced, given the seeming lack of hints throughout the show that Willow was in fact this way inclined. Except Joss Whedon did in fact provide a major clue towards this revelation that, in retrospect, couldn't seem more obvious. An entire season prior, Willow says of her vampire doppelganger, "That's me as a vampire. I'm so evil and skanky, and I think I'm kinda gay." Though Buffy quickly reminds her that a vampire's personality has nothing to do with who they were pre-transformation, Angel jumps in with, "Well, actually," before being shut down by Buffy. The implication was clear, even if audiences weren't quite aware what to do with it at the time. Willow, of course, went on to become a fantastic example of gay representation in a major TV series at a time when that wasn't so much of a thing.
Ted hints at the mother's name in a strip club, How I Met Your Mother. What many were not quick to clock when it was ultimately stated that How I Met Your Mother's titular mom, went by the name of Tracy in the show's finale episode Last Forever, is that Ted actually cheekily revealed a decent piece of the mother's secret all the way back in season 1. During the belly full of turkey episode involving Ted, Robin, and Barney heading over to a strip club on Thanksgiving, this eternal romantic bumps into a stripper who initially introduces herself as Amber. Amber then goes on to confess that her real name is actually Tracy. leading the wisecracking father Ted in the future to jokingly reveal to his kids that this was exactly how he met their mother. In the moment, this understandably felt like nothing more than a fun little gag. But the second it became clear all those years later that those kids' mom did actually go by the name of Tracy, fans soon realized Ted's season 1 quip secretly contained more truth than they originally thought.
Nibbler's shadow, Futurama. In Futurama's Season 4 episode The Why of Fry, it's revealed that Fry's cryogenic freezing accident was actually an intentional act on the part of Nibbler in an attempt to save the universe. The episode shows Fry's accident from the perspective of Nibbler, who pushed him into the pod. But when fans went back to the show's pilot episode to check how these versions of events lined up, they were gobsmacked to find that Nibbler's shadow is in fact present in the original version. Though writer David X. Cohen and others have commented that they weren't originally sure whether or not Nibbler's shadow would eventually have a payoff, they intentionally included elements in the pilot which could be returned to or discarded if they so wished. Watching the two versions of the accident simultaneously is quite the stunning testament to the show's attention to detail.
What happens when you pause to read this? Black Mirror. In an attempt to secretly poke fun at folks trying to get a closer look at one specific document during Black Mirror's Season 3 episode Playtest, show creator and writer Charlie Brooker opted to sneak a brief but brilliant message onto the screen. As Cooper signs an NDA disclaimer handed to him before testing out a new game, slamming the pause button on your remote brings with it the treat of one easily overlooked line a few paragraphs down. The hilarious line reads, "If you have paused to read this, you will die unless you forward it onto 5 people within a 28-day period." So if you have just stopped your playtest experience to check if this particular secret hiding in plain sight is real, well, you better get moving, folks.
Sabrina's science teacher is named Jean Poole, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Fans of the 90s Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV series won't be able to forget Sabrina's eccentric biology teacher, Mr. Poole, played with awkward charm by now filmmaker Paul Feig. But what you might have missed, and what was staring you right in the face this entire time, is the clever pun hidden within Mr. Poole's full name. It's occasionally mentioned that his full name is Eugene Poole, as in Gene Poole. Get it? Given that Sabrina touted a fairly sophisticated sense of humour for a show aimed at young children, it shouldn't be terribly surprising that they'd sneak a pun past us like this. But even so, all these years later, it's impressive how few fans have caught this joke.
You can see Leela's parents 2 seasons before their official arrival, Futurama. For much of the early seasons of the animated sci-fi joy that is Futurama, the badass captain of the Planet Express ship Leela believes she is simply the last of an alien race. However, it turns out she's actually been living a lie her entire life, with Season 4's Leela's Homeworld episode bringing with it the reveal of her parents actually being human mutants who left Leela at the orphanage so she could live a better life. Those who are watching closely 2 seasons earlier will have probably recognized Munda and Morris though. That's because they were secretly revealed to be living in the sewers during the I Second That Emotion episode, long before this shocking Leela revelation. When the mutants Fry, Bender, and Leela all gather around for the legend of El Chupa Libre, those not focusing on guitar strings being strummed will be able to see 2 other one-eyed figures wander into frame. Right there and then, Munda and Morris's little cameo pretty much confirmed that Leela wasn't actually the only Cyclops existing in the galaxy. Most folks were just too distracted by El Chupa Libre tunes to notice. Can't blame them though.
Captain Holt and Sergeant Jeffords both worked 9/11, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Only the most eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Brooklyn Nine-Nine has left a crucial morsel of character backstory literally pinned to the chests of 2 main characters. Both Captain Holt and Sergeant Jeffords have WTC pins on their uniform, which suggests that they were working on 9/11, receiving the pin for their service on that most horrific day. Other recurring characters, such as the Vulture, are also seen wearing the pin, though in a bizarre mistake, it's typically worn incorrectly by the show's characters, as it's supposed to be worn directly below the American flag breastbar and above any other medal. Still, it's a neat glimpse into the characters' lives before the series began, and a subtle dramatic flourish in a TV show that's typically very funny.
Ben will carry a camera until the day he dies. Scrubs. After being diagnosed with leukemia during Scrubs' first season, Ben Sullivan ends up back in hospital 2 seasons later in the My Screw Up episode. And it's during that episode when Jordan's photography-loving brother tells Dr. Cox that he will be carrying around his precious camera till the day I die. But in every scene that contains Ben talking to Dr. Cox after JD is told to go and run some tests on him, that camera is actually nowhere to be seen. It's only after Ben convinces his best friend to not only forgive JD for blaming him for the sudden death of one of his patients, but to forgive himself, that Dr. Cox realizes he's not on his way to his kid's birthday party at all. He's about to head to Ben's funeral. If you were watching closely in the moments that follow Ben's throwaway camera line though, you could unfortunately spot that heartbreaking reveal coming before one of the most emotional sitcom episode endings of all time. Dwight sings Angela's favorite song in Season 1, The Office. While the US office's Dwight and Angela may have only started secretly dating in Season 2, a little moment during the show's pilot suggests that the two eventual lovebirds were destined to be a couple from the very beginning. Dwight can be heard annoying Jim with his own rendition of Little Drummer Boy in that very first episode. And though that may not have seemed all that significant when it first aired, by the time Season 5 rolled around, not only had we witnessed Angela perform that tune with Dwight holding the mic for her, viewers also learned that this was actually her favorite song. Could the pair's romance have secretly been going down as early as during that very first season, and Angela was the one who got this catchy tune in Dwight's head? Or did the show's writers simply spot a chance to connect the two characters via song a few years after that Dwight performance? The whole thing could also just be a bit of a coincidence, of course, as suggested by Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey on the Office Ladies podcast. But it's much more fun to imagine that this secret relationship was intentionally hiding in plain sight from the very first episode. That's what I want to believe.